Hello, fellow figure skating fans and friends. Welcome back to my channel. Today, my friend Erin and I will be recapping the 2020 U.S. National Figure Skating Championships, which were held in Greensboro. I'm really excited to do this with Erin because Nationals is her favorite competition of the year. Now, if you ask me, I would say Skate Canada International, but Erin likes the drama, and I actually think it wasn't as dramatic as Nationals could have been. I think Canadian Nationals brought all the drama last week. But Erin, I'm excited for this if you are.
Yes, I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if any of you can tell, but I am really sick this weekend. So if you can't hear in my voice, you may see in my facial expression. But I'm going to push through and then crash right after we finish filming. I lately have been doing these recaps in the order that the disciplines have completed in the competition. So we'll go with ladies, pairs, dance, and men. Is that correct?
Yes, sounds good.
So with the ladies, I'd have to say the top three ladies at Nationals are the same as the previous year. We have Alysa Liu defending her title successfully, and then Mariah Bell, who had an amazing moment with her free skate, and then Bradie Tennell having a respectable skate, but an error in her free skate cost her the silver medal. Do you agree with Alysa Liu winning the title this year?
I do. I think this is a really interesting case because I think it really speaks to a larger conversation that's been happening in figure skating for the last several years, especially now that we have women who are doing quads, and which is pretty recent in the last few years. And, you know, I think it's tricky because I tweeted something along these lines when it happened. But I think that given the rules of the sport as they currently exist, Alyssa absolutely deserved to win. You know, she put out two fantastic programs. She's extremely talented, and she maximized the system to her benefit. I think that those of us, you know, who have followed the sport for a long time, though, we see the beautiful moment that Mariah Bell was able to create that was just really magical. And she really is an incredibly well-rounded skater with a ton of amazing qualities. But she, you know, she doesn't have a triple axel or a quad. And so, you know, it's very hard to look at those things. I think also for, you know, casual viewers will probably see someone like Mariah and they won't understand why she didn't win. You know, but I think that the result was correct, but I do think that it speaks to a larger conversation that is only going to become, I think, more of an issue in coming years. But I also do want to say for Alyssa that, you know, now I still find personally her skating to be a little bit juniorish other than the jumps. But I do, even just from last year to this year, I think she's already made tremendous strides in her program components. And I think that with a couple more years, I think that she could be one of those skaters who really has it all. You know, I don't think she's there yet. But, you know, in the men's event, like, we're so lucky to have like Nathan Chen and Yuzuru Hanyu, because they are both at the absolute top of the sport technically, and they're amazing artists to watch, you know. And I think that someone like Alyssa could potentially get there one day, but right now it's kind of tough to see, you know, the athlete versus the artist a little bit.
Yeah, and right now I think she's right where she's supposed to be. She's only 14. I still can't believe she won the senior nationals last year as a 13-year-old. And I think a lot of people who are maybe questioning the judging maybe should look at the protocols. And I know the protocols are hard to pull up if you're more of a casual fan. But Alysa Liu, her program component marks were the lowest out of the top three ladies. And I think she was even fourth in program components in the short program, even lower than Amber Glenn or Karen Chen, one or the other. So the quadlets was under-rotated. So, you know, that wasn't a freebie to her. And Mariah Bell did score the highest in program component marks, so that's a huge achievement for her. I think Mariah Bell has been looking to up that threshold in her career as a senior competitor. So congratulations to her for finally meeting that goal.
Yes, I mean, I think she was incredible. You know, she did a really great job. And I also think, you know, Bradie also put out a great fight. It was a real shame that she went down on that very last jump in the free skate, you know, because I think it was going pretty well up until then. But I mean, you know, the thing is, I think both Bradie and Mariah, I'm sure, knew that no matter kind of what happened, they were going to get to be the world team, just because Alyssa, you know, won't be old enough for even a couple more seasons until the Olympic season. So, you know, that was always, I feel like they just needed to be on that podium to get to their next step in their season, which is Worlds.
Yeah, I'm not as upset as other people seem to be on Twitter after the
Mhm.
results were finalized because Bradie and Mariah have officially been named to the world team. You know, Alyssa Liu can't even attend Worlds to help us qualify 3 spots for the Olympic year. She can compete that year though.
Yes.
So it's all Bradie and Mariah. I will go to the technical a little bit. Mariah Bell, I would like to see her eventually do a triple triple in the free skate, or at least two. I know sometimes she
Mhm.
goes for the flip toe. Bradie Tennell does two Lutz toes, which is great.
Mhm.
And it's unfortunate with Bradie because she was on her A game in the short program. She had a nice little lead, especially after learning that she had an infection in her elbow due to
Yes, I
an
read
injury.
that.
Yeah, so she said at one point it was really painful to bend her arm. So kudos to her for going out there and skating the way she did. The free skate, I've seen her do that better, not just the fall. I did see a stumble, I
Mhm.
believe, after her second jumping pass in the free skate. So
Yes. Yeah.
I'm wondering if she was thinking of nerves or anything. But top three ladies did have a good competition, and I was happy to see that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a very strong event.
Yeah, let's see. Who was in fourth place? Was it Karen?
Karen Chen.
Yeah. So
Yes.
good short program from her. I think she scored really well just for doing a triple Lutz double toe combination. I think she self choreographed that program of hers, which is just
Mhm.
absolutely lovely. The spins are always on. It's hard to critique Karen Chen when she skates a clean program because she's just so lovely to see on the ice. I love that she gives a throwback to the late 90s, early 2000s with a short spiral sequence. I can always appreciate that from her.
Yes, I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's terrific. I mean, also, I think she was one of those athletes coming in that we didn't really know quite what to expect because she's also balancing college and skating right now. And, her technical content is not where it was a few seasons ago when she was national champion. But I think the fact that she was able to put together programs that were strong enough to get that fourth place spot, I think really speaks a lot to how well-rounded of a skater she is and how much the judges respect that.
That's right. It was a little hard watching the second half of her long program. That's when the landings of her jumps really got iffy. But one thing I don't agree with from the judges is that her program components were a little lower than Alyssa Liu's in the free skate. So I'm not sure if Alyssa Liu was given a bit of a bump for having a cleaner or more technically difficult program.
I do think that generally, I mean, I think a clean program, which Alyssa's was not, squeaky clean, but it was close. I do think that there is a bump in PCS usually for that, just because, I mean, I think that it's a bit of an emotional thing. It
Yeah.
creates a certain energy when someone skates clean. And I do think that that naturally inspires the judges, to give them a little bit more. So I do, and I also do think, when you see someone out there doing this content that no other women in the United States are doing right now, that you want to reward that on some level. But I do agree that if, I mean, the judging system is obviously not perfect and it's not always applied the way that it should be. I do think if it was applied completely accurately, that Karen would definitely have higher PCS than Alyssa.
I agree. You know who also did well, at least in the short program, was Amber Glenn. She finished fifth. Let's talk about that because that short program was such an emotional moment for her. I'm glad she was technically perfect. And to be honest, I think she skated this short program well throughout the entire season so far. So it wasn't anything new to me, but it was great that she did it when it mattered the most. The free program, ugh, I'm not sure. She kind of covered up a yawn before she started skating, and I'm not sure if she was just fatigued or just thinking too much about the skate because those mistakes really didn't need to happen for her.
Yeah, the free program definitely got away from her a little bit, and that was a shame to see. And I do wonder, I mean, it might have been pressure. I mean, she probably wasn't necessarily expecting to be going into that free skate in fourth place, right up there. And there is a lot of pressure that comes along with that. She was probably thinking about potential four continent spots, other things on the line. And I think she probably just got in her head a little. But I agree that, I mean, I think the short program has served her very well this season. And I hope that I mean, I would even say, why not keep it for another year,
Yeah,
really? But even if not, I would say maybe more programs along those lines are really what is great for her, what like brings out the best qualities in her skating and what she seems the most comfortable doing.
That's a good point. And speaking of four continents, she's actually officially named to the team with Chen and Bradie Tennell. So Mariah Bell opting not to
Yes.
go. So we get to see those
Yes.
programs again.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I think it's a great opportunity for her, again, to go skate on a larger stage, get that experience. Karen obviously has had a lot of international experience, but Amber not quite as much. I mean, I think she had like a week's notice that she was going to Skate America this year, so I think it'll be great for her just to have another big event like that to kind of get her legs under her and hopefully get some momentum for next season.
Yeah, we will be watching her closely at that competition. Starr Andrews was the place next at the U.S. Nationals. She had a strong short program. It was nice to see it finally skated clean. Again, with Amber, not the same case with the free skate, but instead of being named to four continents, she is attending a camp that will determine who goes to the World Junior Championships. Is that correct?
Yes, and I believe the U.S. did this last year as well, in terms of deciding the junior world team. And I mean, I do think that it's fair, especially because there are a lot of options. Not only are there the people in senior who are young enough to go to junior worlds, but there's also, the junior champion is usually considered. So I think that is a fair way, especially because, when all of the contenders aren't competing directly against each other at nationals, it's kind of hard to compare. So I'll be interested to see who they end up choosing.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what's the mindset of an athlete going into such a camp. Like, what if you're Starr Andrews and you really want to stay senior and you don't care about going to junior worlds? Do you just show up and purposefully not do well?
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that anyone would probably be excited for the opportunity to go, just because if the alternative is kind of your season being over, that might not be what you want. And I also feel like, competition experience is competition experience no matter what. But I mean, it is, for those at the senior level to go skate at the junior event, you do have to tweak your program a little bit. There's some different rules. So it certainly is a little bit of extra work. Alyssa Liu, she was competing all season internationally on the junior circuit. So this will be no big deal for her.
Yeah. So that was the top 6. If you want my opinion, I think Alysa Liu absolutely needs to be at the junior world team. I think that's kind of a given before this little camp. Is there anyone beyond the top 6 you wanted to discuss, Erin?
The one, and I don't remember exactly which place she ended up in. I was very impressed with Sierra Venetta in the free skate. I thought she just did a really lovely job, and I loved how happy she seemed to be out there. She was just kind of radiating joy while she was skating. And I really enjoy seeing that, especially from skaters who, they're at nationals because they worked really hard just to be there, and they're not necessarily competing for world team spots. And that's kind of the whole second tier of nationals that's happening. And it's just a very different mindset and can be really nice to watch when those athletes have a great moment. And I also feel like we should talk about Gracie Gold, who, I think, as you could see by the reaction from the crowd in Greensboro, who was so supportive of her, I think everyone was thrilled to see her back. Everyone seemed to be very familiar with, her story and everything she's been through and what it took for her to even be here. And I thought that she should be proud of what she did. She rotated a decent number of triples in the free. I was especially encouraged to see, she popped the flip at the beginning, which, I thought that was always a problem jump for her, even at the height of her career. But then she rotated it later in the program, and I thought that really showed fight. And I thought, it was great to see her back, and I hope that she has said that she's going to compete next season. But I'm curious to see, with a little bit more training time under her belt, what she's able to do.
That's right. So Sierra was in 7th place, and she skated a very impressive free skate. I believe she was 5th overall in the free skate. Gracie Gold was 12th overall, which I was making bets with people that she would be in the top 10. But 12th for her here, I think it was a great showing. I know she wasn't perfect, but she actually looked faster to me, more fit. I saw more fight in her, especially in the second half of the free program. The step sequence was slow, but I'd say otherwise, like, her spins looked decent. She didn't look too hard on herself, but also she knew she could do better. It was just so good to see Gracie in that mindset.
Yes, I think, I watched her performances at regionals and at sectionals, and I think there was marked improvement at each event, from the one before it. And that's why I think I'm very excited to see what she's able to do,
Yeah,
just with a little bit more time.
yeah, I wanted to see a triple triple from her, so I think she wanted to do one as well. So next year she's probably going to be hungry to show that to the world.
Yeah, and I know
And
she was doing them in practice, but I think it seems to me, I think my guess is, with kind of the limited full training time being back on competitive ice, I think the run-throughs are probably just what's still the most of a work in progress. And I think just putting the content she's able to do into the program is going to be the next step for her.
that's right. It was also nice to see Courtney Hicks in eighth place here. I think I preferred her short program over her long. It seemed like, the jumps haven't totally gone away from her since she's competed on the international stage, meaning like, a Grand Prix competition or four continents. I'm wondering what her end goal is, but if she's hoping to continue to compete at nationals, she's still good enough to be there. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, it's always nice to see kind of familiar faces pop back up, and nationals is a good place for that.
That's right. Okay, are you ready to move on to the next discipline?
Yes.
All right, so that would be pairs. So Alexa and Chris Knierim have won their third national title. It had been a while. They kind of dropped out of the top 5 last season, which was kind of a shocker, I think, even for them. It's nice to see them gain their title back. I think the drama here was that they barely won, I think by a total of 3 points from the total score, but they had a nice lead in the short program. They were about 9 points above of my favorite pair, with Jessica Calalang and Brian Johnson, who came in second. So I know a lot of people are arguing that Jessica and Brian should have won the gold because they had the fantastic, the spectacular free skate. But we have to remember that you can also secure your overall standings with a short program.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember who first said this. It was some former champion, but they said that you can't win an event in the short program, but you sure can lose it. And I do think I mean, Jessica and Brian had mistakes in the short, and it put them in a deficit. And I think that, again, the rules of the sport are written a certain way, and Alexa and Chris were able to skate, honestly, one of the best short programs I've ever seen them do, especially in several years. And I think they built themselves a nice lead with that, and they needed it. They needed it because his jumps remain unreliable, and they skated smart. Even after the mistake on the first set of side-by-sides, they did a double for the second, which I think they knew they could do because they knew the lead that they had and they knew how the other teams had skated. And I think that was probably smart rather than risking a fall and risking losing more points that honestly might have ended up putting them in second place.
Yeah, you were shocked that Chris landed the triple toe in the short program.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I know that, they've changed coaches, and I know that supposedly, he's working more and more on his jumps, and I think it was promising to see him be able to land that. Now he just needs to be able to do it in both programs.
Yeah, speaking of their coach, so Todd Sand and Jenny Menel, is that how you say her last name?
Yes, Mino.
Yes. Yeah, so they're actually the coaches for Alexa, Chris, and Jessica and Brian. So good weekend for them. And yeah, I had to say, I think the second side-by-side jumps, the double sow-cows, looked very intentional, which was odd to me.
Yes.
But, it makes sense. Maybe they had a plan beforehand. And the interesting thing we have to note about pair skating is that the technical content, I think the elements that score the most are actually the lifts. So sometimes a casual viewer will watch and they'll be like, they fell. Why did they win a medal? But hey, if you want to take an example, a clean-ish side-by-side jump is about 4 points, and a pretty good lift is about 9. And Jessica and Brian, their downgraded side-by-side sow cows in the short program was given a total score of like 0.65. So in a way, you could say that Jessica and Brian lost the gold medal in the short program.
Yes. Yes. And I mean, I think, I also really enjoy Jessica and Brian. I remember seeing them in person at Skate America, and you could just tell that all the pieces were there. They skate with so much power. They have a great connection on the ice. They have great elements, and it's really, mostly with the side-by-sides that they struggle. And it was great and I do think that they kind of improved inch by inch this season, and then they peaked at exactly the right time. We're finally able to put all the pieces together. And I hope that that really gives them some confidence moving forward, especially just because I do think it seemed like it was nerves often earlier in the season. I hope that now they feel much more confident moving into their next event.
Yeah, and we have to remember that this is also a relatively new partnership. This is only their second nationals together, so they're still
Yes.
working out the kinks. I think Charlie White said on the NBC Gold broadcast that while their free skate was amazing, their lifts are great, the choreography was rather simple, which I can agree with. But I gotta say, intricate choreography only works when you do it well. Otherwise, it can appear messy and you can lose grade of execution points. So maybe slowly they'll add in more intricate transitions into their elements. But so far, I'd say they have the best lifts of all the American pairs. And I think I can back that up with looking at the protocols. They received the highest scoring lift element in the free skate. So yay, Jessica and Brian. The team for the World Championships have not been named yet, but if you want my opinion, I say send Alexa and Chris and Jessica and Brian because they have had similar international experiences this season. Jessica and Brian even won a Senior B competition, which was the Warsaw Cup right before Nationals.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do for the selection of repairs. I don't think it's an easy decision. I agree with you that I would send the top two, and I would also send the top three to Four Continents. But there's so many arguments to be made either way. I do think that pretty much if you look at the top five pairs, I think they all had uneven seasons. They all had ups and downs, and I don't think that any one of them had a season strong enough compared to the others to justify not just going with the nationals results. But at the same time, I mean, I think the one argument that I've seen come up a lot is that the only reason we even have two spots is because of what Ashley and Tim were able to do last year, and that for that reason, maybe they'll at least get the Four Continents spot. I don't know what is going to end up happening. I mean, I think this entire season for them just has not at all gone the way that they planned, but they did a great thing in securing those two spots for us. So, it's really tricky, and I don't really know what is going to happen. I'm curious to see when they announce it. I mean, other people are also suggesting that we could do something like they chose to do in Canada, where they send, the top three, or even if they could also say, Alexa and Chris, you're going to Worlds, and then send Jessica and Brian, Tarah and Denney, and Ashley and Tim to Four Continents to duke it out, and whoever comes out on top, goes to Worlds. It'll be curious. I don't think we'll do that because the U.S. doesn't usually do things that way, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think that it would be an amazing experience for Jessica and Brian to have going to Worlds, but I also do have to understand the other side of it, where they have not been consistent this season or even yet as a new team. So, it's really a tough decision. I'm going to be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, and the team that finished in third place is a relatively strong team as well in the United States. Tarah, Kane, and Dana O'Shea. I think they lost it in the free skate. They had a really strong showing in the short. The free skate, it's almost like they lost a little bit of GOE on a few elements throughout the program. Nothing was as secure as I've seen before, and they've been national champions in the past. But, I could see the USFSA, although I don't want them to, sending them based on their body of work. But,
Yes.
they're also an up and down team, in my opinion.
They are, and I also think it is important to note that they, along with Haven and Brandon, have a lower base value than Ashley and Tim and our top two. They just, like, one of their side-by-sides is a double axle. They just, they are at a disadvantage technically just in terms of what they can do. And I do think that has to be considered in the decision.
Absolutely. And I would like to add that they have been given some positive chances in the past that I may still be bitter about, mainly for continents last year. But, to each their own. Then we have Ashley Kane Gibble and Timothy Leduc, no longer national champions, actually now pewter medalists. It's been an interesting season for them, not medaling at either of their Grand Prix competitions. Coming here, it just didn't look like they had it all together. The big surprise actually was a technical call in the short program where their death spiral was invalidated. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And the reason was, and they were very confused about the reason, and Peter, as a certified technical specialist, couldn't even figure it out at first, apparently. But what it was is there's in the rules, it states that the man's toe pick has to be firmly planted before the end of the first revolution. And Tim he didn't quite find that footing as early as he should have. And that's the kind of mistake that, they're never going to make again, now that happened. And it's unfortunate because that was, I think, about 5 points probably for them in the short. And I don't think that I looked at the numbers and it wouldn't have changed the standings. But I think that that's definitely a big learning experience for them. And I don't know. I think this whole season is really a learning experience for them because I think last season they had her horrible fall and concussion and recovery, but then they were able to come back in such an incredible way and win nationals and do great at Worlds. And then I think they came into this season with very high expectations for themselves, and it just hasn't come together. And I think that that's okay. I think that doesn't mean that they're not still going to have a very bright future. But I almost think that for them, if this is the end of their season and it gives them a little bit of extra time to kind of go back to the drawing board and maybe reassess why things didn't go the way they'd hoped, that might be ultimately a good thing for them. One thing that I've noticed is, the throw Lutz, I think, needs to come out of both programs, in my opinion. They've struggled with it all season. She fell on it in both programs of Skate America. She stood up here, but it was still not a strong element for them. And I just think that maybe they should be working on another throw to put in instead that's a little bit more secure and they can rely on.
If I were part of their team, I would even reevaluate the solo jumps that they choose because they flip and flop between some more difficult, like side by side. I think it was flip once upon a time, but now it's like a loop, sometimes Salchow and toe. It's like choose one, your best one, and do it in both programs. Also the lifts, some level drops for them in the free skate for sure. I don't know what it was, but they need to find a way to always be very secure with the lifts because those are your big point gainers, and American pairs, some ones we mentioned earlier, are fantastic with them.
Yes, I do also have to, because they've only been together a few years as well. And I know Tim at least was new to pairs, Ashley was not. And I think that things like the lifts are things that take a little bit more time when you're a new team. They obviously were very strong in their singles elements, but I agree about the side-by-sides. Here, they did the Salchows instead of the loops in the short, and I thought that was a very smart decision because they were able to execute the Salchows very well, whereas the loop is, it's a higher base value, but it's also a little bit hit and miss for them. So, I think that they really just need to kind of train different elements and figure out what they can put in the program and feel best about, because I think they kind of rely on the fact that they can do these more difficult jumps and throws than some of the other American teams, but that strategy won't work if you can't do them consistently.
That's right. And to praise them, I still am so thankful that they went to Worlds, finished in the top 10, and gave us our 2 spots back. Thank you, Ashley and Tim. Amazing on your part. And then we have surprise 5th place finishers, at least for me, Haven Denney and Brandon Frazier. They had a good Grand Prix season, winning the bronze medal twice. It was not. This was not an improvement on what we saw earlier this season.
It wasn't. They honestly were my pick to win coming into this event, just based on their season in the fall. I thought that they seemed to have the momentum, and they certainly have the free skate. That's a great program that grabs the audience. And I thought it might be their season to get back on top of the podium, but the mistakes just made their way in. And they're another team that, they are at a disadvantage with their base value in terms of the side-by-side jumps, that especially Haven, who, has had a ton of knee injuries and surgeries, in terms of what she's able to execute. So when they're already at a disadvantage like that, they need to be able to do everything else perfectly. And when the mistakes kind of creep in, it's just, there's really nothing that they can do at that point.
Yeah, if your planned content is side-by-side double axel, you have to land it. really well,
Hmm.
actually, to get your GOE up.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if their season is over. If it is, they also need to go back to the drawing board. But it sounds like they've had similar issues from one season to the next, and they've had a longer partnership than some of these other
Hmm.
pairs who are placing higher than them at nationals. So I don't know what it's going to
Yeah.
take for them to move up. I will say I was really impressed by the pair that finished in sixth, Audrey Liu and Misha. I'm not going to try to say that
Hmm.
last name unless you can pronounce
Yes.
it.
Then they moved up from juniors, I believe. They were junior champions 2 years ago. And yeah, I think they definitely showed a lot of promise for sure. I think that they seem to be strong skaters both on their own and as a team, and it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do with another season in senior.
That's right. They definitely lack some polish and refinement, but boy, do I love their energy. They just attack things,
Mm-hmm.
and they had some really high technical content. I think, what was it, like a triple half loop, triple sow cow as their side by side
Yes.
combination. I was like, whoa. I understand it was
Yeah.
under rotated, but still,
Hmm.
the
Yes.
the what the guts to go for it. That
Hmm.
says a lot. And then we have Mervyn Tran up
Hmm.
next. Did you see him skate with his new partner?
I did, yes. And I thought that they had improved a lot. I know last season it was their first nationals together as a pair, and Olivia is new to pairs
Yes.
entirely. And I think they've made such improvements in the last year, just in terms of, their pair elements, especially. Like the twist is pretty strong now. So I think that I think they also could have an exciting future. I'm curious to see where they go with a little bit more mileage. And, I think that it's great that I know they did get to compete internationally a couple times this season. And I think that getting that experience is really helpful for them. So yeah, I always love Mervyn is a fantastic skater to watch, and also a great personality to kind of follow in the sport. So yeah, I always enjoy seeing him.
That's right. I was cheesy on Twitter and I said, I stand Mervyn Tran, which is the truth. He's an awesome guy. And, if we're moving on from pairs, I did want to say there is someone who is missing in pairs this year, and it is Deanna Stellato Dudek, my favorite pairs woman. She is now skating for
Yes.
Canada. I met her last weekend in Mississauga, Ontario. I got to speak with her and I asked her story on why she is skating for Canada now. She told me, she and Nathan Bartholomew split up amicably, and Bruno, the famous Canadian coach, called her
Mhm.
to try out with Maxime, her new partner, and it's
Yeah.
been working out really well. They were sixth last weekend at
Yeah.
Canadian Nationals. So, if in case you guys are wondering, because it's not so public or as public as I think it should be, so that's where Deanna Stellato is at.
Yeah. And good for her. And I honestly think she probably saw, there's opportunity in Canadian pairs right now after Megan and Eric stopped skating. There's spots available, and I think that she saw an opportunity, and I hope it works out for her.
Same. Okay, so now we're moving on to dance. And I thought there was supposed to be more drama in dance results, but everyone kept telling me, I was sick last night. They're Justin, go to bed. We know the results of dance. I was like, but do we? I don't think so. Well, apparently we do, because what's interesting to note is that the standings in the rhythm dance are the exact same as the free dance
Hmm.
and overall. So not a lot of movement. The
Yeah.
judges seem to make up their mind, but officially speaking, Madison, Chock, and Evan Bates have climbed their way back up to the top of the podium at nationals since 2015, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Do you agree with the results in dance?
I do. And I mean, and I think also that I think the writing has been on the wall all season about, what was going to happen in terms of those teams kind of flopping in terms of the standings that they've had the last few years. And I honestly truly think that so much of it comes down to the choice of material, because I just think that Hubbell and Donohue really missed the mark on both programs this season. And I think the judges tried to tell them that very early. And I will say Hubbell and Donohue did make a lot of changes to their free dance. Even they made a few for the Grand Prix final, and then they made even more since the Grand Prix final. And I actually was, I'm a total nerd about ice dance. I rewatched their Grand Prix final free dance after seeing the new version, just to refresh my memory on what had changed. And they shortened the alibi, the rock piece in
Okay.
the music, and they added more of shallow in, which I think was very smart and how it should have been to begin with. I still don't love the music cut. I think like I was so excited to hear that they were doing A Star is Born for their program, and then I was just so disappointed by what the program actually was, and I still think that it could get better, but this was definitely the most effective it's been, I think. I think that the changes they made really did help the momentum of the program, and they skated it very well here. But I think at this point it was kind of too little too late for that alone to salvage their season when Chock and Bates have been the ones gaining the momentum. And I also think that, Chock and Bates, the two teams are very different. Chock and Bates are very acrobatic. They have these really exciting lifts to watch. They often pick very interesting, fun music that has a really clear theme. Whereas Hubbell and Donohue, I think their skating is a little bit more understated in certain ways. They're very powerful skaters. They're very big skaters on the ice, and they really fill out the rink, and they're fast. And but I think, and they've really done the best when they've had kind of more subtle programs in the past, like their Hallelujah rhythm dance a few seasons ago was kind of their really breakout program that really made people kind of notice them. So I think that, they just have such different styles, and it really comes down to, who is able to execute it better, and I think also the material that they're given. And I think that in a ice dance season where I think a lot of teams have had questionable programs, I think that Madison and Evan have one that works for them, and I think that really led them to this gold.
Yeah, I think Madison Chock and Evan Bates' free dance in particular looks so great when compared directly with Madison Hubbell and Zachary Donohue's. If you compare it to some of the free dances out there right now, it's up there in the top, but I wouldn't say it's so much better than anyone else's. But I think it's, definitely the superior program in speaking at nationals. Let's see, I'm going to have a very hard time contributing to this conversation because I'm ice dance stupid. But coming from a casual fan, I will say that I think Madison and Evan look a little bit more refined. And, it's like, I can't exactly describe it. It's like their lifts are more crisp, and it's like the posing is done really well, that it's very photogenic. Whereas I found that Hubbell and Donohue, they made some great changes, because for the first time I was excited about both programs, and I didn't expect to be. But they really attacked, they really projected upward and outward, where sometimes it looked a little bit, too much. And while the changes were good, maybe it was a little too late. But it was interesting to see that the judges placed them in second, not only in technical, but also in program components. So when I look at the protocols, which, by the way, doesn't help me understand ice dance, but you see the difference in GOEs. You see Madison, Chock, Evan Bates, a lot of 4s and 5s. Hubbell and Donohue, more 4s than 5s and some 3s, and then lower with the other teams after them.
Yes, and I think what you were getting at with what you just said is I do think that since the Olympics, Hubbell and Donohue have gotten almost a little sloppy. And I think that part of it is, I think I almost wonder if they got a little bit comfortable, because they had been having so much success, and they, were the top team in the US, and they were finishing on all these international podiums. And I think maybe they got a little complacent, and maybe they didn't have the best programs, the programs that were really going to push them or make them do something new. And I think, if anything, I hope that this season is a wake-up call for them, because I absolutely think that it is entirely possible for those standings to swap again next year. I think that it's really anybody's game. And I think also, Worlds is going to be a big one for them, because I think they're not going to want to be off that podium. They've been on it the last 2 seasons, but that's looking pretty dicey for them right now. So, but we'll see how it works out, and then we'll see how they choose to react to everything that's happened this season with what their choices for next season.
That's right. And Chock and Bates, they're not totally secure as the number 1 spot for the next 2 seasons leading up to the Olympics. I think it's going to come down to music choices for the programs next year, because I think Madison and Zach will have learned the lesson that, you need to get feedback early on. Maybe do a senior B before your first Grand Prix.
Yes.
That might help to get some feedback early on. I'm still surprised that Marie France okayed some of these programs to happen. And then I will just say the white elephant in the room. I know that Chock and Bates' free dance has been criticized for being, cultural appropriation. And I do agree with that. They didn't have to use the Egyptian hands
Yes.
so much. It's still a dynamic program to me.
Hmm.
But let's move on to some more
No,
positive.
yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. The program is not my favorite for that reason, but I do understand why it has worked for them this season. I do think it highlights a lot of their strengths.
Yeah. Then let's talk about some good stuff. Your favorite American dance team was in bronze medal. And for the first time all season, I actually enjoyed both rhythm dance and the free dance. I'm not sure if it was any changes they made or they just skated to it better, but I liked it.
I think they skated definitely the best they have all season. I think it was very clear that they wanted it, that they knew they had to have known that that bronze medal was in jeopardy for them the way the season had gone. But I think they skated very clean in both programs, which for them mistakes do tend to creep in sometimes, and they lose those levels. And they got a level 4 fin step in the rhythm dance. I would have to double check, but I don't think that's happened all season. And I'm hoping that this is a good sign. I do have to say that while I think they still clearly have a lot of favor in the U.S. with the judges, I think they really have struggled with international panels and being well received in the last couple of years. And I don't know that anything that happened this weekend necessarily changes that moving forward. I was also a little bit surprised by their reaction to their scores because from where I was sitting, I felt that hanging on to that bronze medal was the best case scenario for them and definitely not a given. And they seemed almost disappointed. And if anyone is kind of putting in their head that there was anything more than that would have been possible, that concerns me a little bit because I don't think that would be realistic. But I was certainly very happy to see them hang on to that podium spot. I am sure they're going to get to go to Worlds, and I hope that they can have a great outing there.
Yeah, that bronze medal position was not a given to them leading up to the national championships this year. I had heard from somebody, it might have been NBC Sports Gold commentators, Tanith White, saying that their goal was the silver medal. And when I heard that, I went, oh, I am all
Yeah.
for wishful thinking, but most important, I think it's realistic expectations. And I was
Yes.
surprised that they had the reaction that they did in the Kiss and Cry, which was a little underwhelmed with the numbers. But hey,
Yes.
they secured the bronze medal. That's a good goal right now.
Yeah, especially because, and just to move on to the fourth
Yeah.
place team, Christina Carrera and Anthony Ponomarenko, they were coming for that bronze medal spot. I was listening to the great podcast Ice Talk, did an interview with them a couple of weeks ago, and they said in that interview that their goal was to be on the world team for this nationals. And I don't think that was an unrealistic goal for them, honestly. I mean, I think that they have had a lot of momentum this season, and I think that they skated well, and I think that that definitely was within reach. And I think it's going to remain within reach for them next season if they keep on the trajectory that they're on. They also, one kind of interesting scoring thing is in their free dance, they actually had their choreo step invalidated,
I
which
see
the
that.
reason for that, I believe the reason for that is the rules state that you have to come to a complete stop before starting that sequence. And I think it was determined that they did not come to a complete stop. So again, kind of like Ashley and Tim with the death spiral, I'm sure that's a mistake they're never going to make again now. And had they gotten the credit for that, that would have put them in third in the free dance, but not affected the overall standings. So I do think that shows, though, that they're right there. They're right there competing for that bronze medal position. And it'll be interesting to see, if either of the top 2 or 3 declines for continents, they
Yeah.
could maybe get to go there and have that experience, which I think could be good for them.
Yeah, when I was watching them live, particularly in the rhythm dance, I think this was my only tweet. I said, wow, this team is a lot more exciting than I remember. And that's true. Like the great
Yeah.
energy they give. I love the costumes of the free dance. It's very
Mm-hmm.
Christian Louboutin-esque. And you're
Yeah.
right, it was interesting to see that invalidated element in the free dance, but also Jean-Luc and Kaitlin had a deduction for an extended lift. So all of these like
Mm-hmm.
second tier dance teams, they really have to be on to fight against each other to land on the podium and to make it to Worlds. Heaven forbid if the Shibutanis or Meryl and Charlie return to competition. It's over.
I know. Yeah. And I mean, I find there's so many fascinating stories in U.S. ice dance right now. I mean, there's the battle between the top two, and then there's kind of Hawayek and Baker trying to hang on to that bronze medal spot. And then, a couple of years ago, it was really Lorraine McNamara and Quinn Carpenter and Rachel Parsons and Michael Parsons were these two really hot teams that had great success in junior that moved up. And then Christina and Anthony were a year behind them in terms of moving up. And now they have kind of surpassed. Obviously, Rachel chose to step away from skating, and now Michael is skating with Caroline Green. And the judges seem to really like them. They've been doing very well in this kind of first season together. So it's just sort of interesting to see the way that things are shifting around in such a short amount of time.
It was surprising to see how good they were with it only being their first season together. Can you imagine how good they'll be in 3 years?
Yes, no, they have a lot of potential. I think she in particular really has kind of that star quality and a lot of polish for someone who's only 16 years old. Yes. The only thing that I will say about them is I really dislike their rhythm dance. I think that it's not really an appropriate choice for a 16-year-old to skate to with a 24-year-old man.
Can you remind us of the music choice?
Yeah, it's a screw loose, and and also the costumes and the choreography. I just find it to be a little. I just think it was poor packaging for them.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and hopefully they'll have better programs next season. I think the free dance is pretty good for them. Although they did have a large mistake in their free dance, as did Lorraine and Quinn. Actually, they both had. I don't know if it technically counted as a fall for both teams, but they both pretty much went down in their programs and pretty large mistakes. But again, it didn't really impact the standings from where they were after the rhythm dance.
That's right. And yep, it looks like it was technically a fall for Lorraine and then also for Caroline and Michael. An interesting tidbit about Caroline and Michael is that both of their previous partners were also with siblings. So it's a nice change for them to no longer have that kind of feeling in a partnership.
Yes.
Are we done with dance?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
Now it's time for men, which, by the way, concluded right before we started filming.
Yes.
Nathan Chen is still undefeated. That is my favorite word to use in figure skating. Of course, it's in the context of the competitions he chooses to compete at. A lot of times he's been skipping for continents, which we understand. All I can remember is that the short program, the opening quad flip looked so easy, like out of nowhere. That's what stands out on my mind when I think of Nathan Chen.
Yeah, I think his short was honestly, I think one of the best short programs he's ever done. And I thought, especially the triple axel in the short, I thought it was one of the best triple axels he's ever done. Easy. And, coming into this event, I know kind of all the talk that like he himself was saying was that he's been ill, he lost some training days, and everyone sort of was wondering, what content is he going to bring to the table this week, especially because, we all know that he didn't need to do 4 quads to win on the free skate, but I have to imagine that if you're Nathan, you approach this event not only thinking of it as, you wanting to go out and give a great performance for the home crowd and do performances that you're proud of, but also, this is still a reflection of where he stands on the world stage. And that the world is watching and his major competitors are definitely paying attention to what he's doing here. And I'm sure that, had he not had as strong of a skate, that might put him at a slight disadvantage just in terms of the momentum and in terms of the way it's perceived going into Worlds. So I do think it was important for him in his own way to go out there and do what we all know he can do.
Yeah, and he wasn't perfect in the free skate. I'm looking at the protocols right now and it looks like the judges were not seeing what I see. I see positive grade of executions on every jump element. He was fighting for some of those landings towards the end of his program, but still 4 quads. Can't believe it. His standard one, so the flip, Salchow, and the toe. What was interesting, I think, was that in the short program, the judges gave the program components edge to Jason Brown, which is like, yes, that's how judging should go. That was not the case for the free skate, which I thought was interesting. And even when Jason Brown was ahead of Nathan Chen in program components, they still gave Nathan Chen the edge on skating skills. And I know, that could be interpreted in different ways, but I think it's pretty clear that Jason is, the A plus in skating skills. So we have to wonder how much the judges are judging with, rose tinted glasses for quads.
Yes, I do. I think Nathan absolutely in the free skate on the quad sal, he was very forward. He kind of pulled off a save on that. And then also on the toe half loop sal cow, it was not a squeaky clean exit from that. I think those two elements should have had negative GOE for sure. And it's a little bit absurd that they didn't. Yeah. But again, it ultimately doesn't affect anything either way. He was still going to win by a mile. And I mean, I kind of figured when he did the 3 quads at the beginning that he was just going to kind of, take it easy for the rest of the program. But then, no, he does the 4th quad tail towards the end, and it was gorgeous, so that's just what he can do. But I think it's been really great to see him. I think the Rocket Man program, it seems like he really enjoys skating it. Like, it seems like he's very comfortable. He always looks at ease when the program starts. Like, I feel at ease watching him because I just feel like he seems so relaxed. And I think that the program has really worked out well for him. So, good kudos to Marie France who did that choreography.
Yeah, the vibe I got from Nathan Chen this week was very comfortable and confident in what he's capable of doing. And hey, it just seemed like another competition to tick off the box on his way to potentially winning another world championships. Crossing my fingers for him. But Jason Brown, what an emotional competition for him as well. He was in tears at the kiss and cry after receiving his scores for the free skate. And if you're wondering maybe where the tears are coming from, he has been national champion. I believe, was it 2014 nationals or 15?
It was 15.
15, yeah. So he won. He's kind of been off the radar. He was bronze twice, withdrew 1 year, and was 6th in another year. So to get 2nd, especially in a competition where Nathan Chen is competing, was huge for him. I'm not sure if he was also overjoyed with standing up on a quad, which was downgraded, unfortunately, but it's nice to see him attempt the quad toe. But kudos to Jason.
It was nice to see him go for it. Yeah, it was great to see him go for the quad, and I do think, yes, it was downgraded, but I think ultimately the fact that he stood up on it was less disruptive to the program than falling on it would have been. So I think that was kind of the best outcome that he could have had there. I also think, it was when he was on his way to Champs Camp earlier this season, he was in a car accident, had a concussion, and was apparently still having concussion symptoms as recently as December. So, I mean, that has certainly impacted his training. I have to imagine that little bit of adversity contributed to his very emotional reaction, which I found to be very unlike him. It was very moving in that way. It was usually he's just so jubilant. To see him truly overcome was really sweet. But I mean, I think he's incredible. I think that he deservedly got 2nd. I think both of his programs are really great this year. And I think, hopefully with a little bit more mileage on the quad, maybe he'll be able to land it cleanly. I know I've certainly seen videos of him landing clean ones in practices. I think it seems like he just gets a little tight when it's in the program, probably nerves. But yeah, I mean, I think this was definitely the best outcome that he could have hoped for.
Yeah, stellar programs. I have to apologize to my friend Mai. She watches some of these videos because I prefer, what was his program last year? Love is a Bitch. I have no problem saying that word. Yeah. I really love that program. And his short program this year didn't finally click to me until this weekend at National. So yes, Mai, I now think this is the superior short program for him. And Schindler's List, not everyone can do that justice. A lot of athletes have tried to skate to that program. Jason takes it to a whole new level. So it was great to see him do that. But I am super excited for the bronze medalist, Tomoki Hiwatashi. He is the reigning world junior champion. And he was the pewter medalist last year at Nationals. I'd say both programs, short and long, were great. The free blew me away, 2 quad toes. He fought for the landing. Nice attack. Also has some remnants of Jason Brown's skating skills, like flexibility, the layback spin, the gorgeous Russian split.
Yes, I loved that.
Yeah, and it was great to see him pull it all together because his Grand Prix assignments were pretty underwhelming, if I have to be honest.
Yes, and I remember actually at Four Continents last year, I was there in person, and he really got the crowd and kind of created a moment. Like everyone there really loved what he was able to do. So I do think, especially having seen that, I was also a little bit underwhelmed by his Grand Prix season. So it was really great to see him put together what he was able to do here today. And I have to imagine that he earned himself that world's spot with that performance. I'm sure that they're going to send the top three if I had to guess.
Yeah, we don't know yet, or I should check my phone. Nope, no one's texted me yet, so
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. But I would send Tomoki. He has some mileage under him, especially as reigning world junior champion.
Yes.
But if they went with fourth place finisher here, Vincent Zhou, that wouldn't be the worst of all decisions, considering he's the reigning world bronze medalist. But it was a surprise to see him compete, seeing that he forgoed the Grand Prix assignments to focus on school. Kudos to Vincent Zhou for choosing some interesting programs for him. Unexpected, at least by my standards, and was, yeah, totally clean. Looked a little winded halfway through some of his programs, but hey, he finished on top, and you could see he was fighting to finish the program strong, which he did.
Yes, and I think, he was trying to go to school full time and skate, and then he just was having trouble apparently getting adequate ice time at Brown where he was, so he made the decision to kind of put to table school for now and come back to skating. But I think that was a very recent decision, so I would imagine it has not been that long that he's been doing run-throughs again, and probably didn't even decide to come to nationals until kind of very close. So, but what I thought really showed is he seemed very happy just to be there,
Yeah.
and I thought that really showed, and that was nice to see. And I think it's totally fine if he doesn't go to Worlds this year, especially considering this was kind of a transition experimental year for him, like in life. And I think that he would probably even appreciate, the little bit of extra time to get settled back into training full time and see what he can do next year and really come out strong at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, so far it looks like this coaching switch has worked out well for him because he just moved to Toronto fairly recently, skating at the Granite Club with Lee Barkel as his main coach. So it's interesting how many of these American skaters are choosing to have Canadian coaches. I think it's
Yes.
very, very interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how many other skaters follow suit. At least the ice dancers are all in Montreal.
Yes, pretty much all of them.
Yeah, that's no surprise to us. Let's see who was in fourth place. Oh no, I mean fifth place. Ooh, I really liked him, Andrew Torgashev. So
Yes.
if you're watching this recap, you have not watched Andrew before, you need to see his short program. That was artistic brilliance for someone who's relatively new to the senior circuit, at least nationally. I believe he's a former national junior champion a few seasons ago.
Yes, I believe so. A few years ago.
Yeah, and you could tell it's very artistic. He went for the quad in the short, and it was great. Not the same with the long, but I'm forgetting that the long happened in my mind because that short program was excellent.
Yeah, the short program was really terrific. I have to imagine that part of what happened in the long might have been nerves. He was probably not expecting to be in third place, going into that program. And it just kind of got away from him. But I'm very excited to see his future because I thought he showed real promise.
That's right. Who else showed promise was Alex Krasnozan. I'm saying it totally wrong. Alex.
I think that's actually right. His last name, at least. I think you nailed it. Yeah.
First time. There's a first time for everything. So he was on my radar as a junior skater. I think that's when he was really competitive internationally. Suffered some injuries, and I kind of is reminiscent of Canada's Nicolas Nadeau, where you saw so much potential as a junior. Then there was an injury when transitioning to senior, and kind of lost some polish with posture and overall, skating stature when on the ice. So I see improvement in his skating. What stands out to me with him is that he just attacks his programs, maybe sometimes a little too much in that free skate. But if I had to choose between a skater that gives it too much and not enough, I will go with too much because you can work on pulling that back a little bit.
Yes, and I saw him skate in person at Skate America, and he is very fast on the ice, very powerful. He just flies into those jumps, and it's a little bit frightening, but it also is very impressive.
Yeah, he goes for the quads. I think so far there's just one, but I think he's capable of doing more than that in the future. So we'll
Yes.
keep an eye on him. Is there anyone else you'd like to discuss?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I felt the early portion of the men's free skate was kind of messy today, honestly. I think that a lot of people, and I mean, it's these men's programs nowadays are so difficult and so complicated that it is difficult to find, a clean skate. But I think definitely the last group kind of brought it more together.
Yeah, I'm looking at the results here. So the top 6 at nationals this year, they were all in the final group, and that was exciting to watch. So, before that
Yes.
last group, some interesting things happen. I do
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to the skater that finished in 7th, which is Camden Pulkkinen. He seems to be a fan favorite, and if you watch his skating, it's easy to understand why. Also,
Yes.
such a beautiful skater. He was successful with 2 quad toes in this competition, so there's that positive takeaway. But some other kind of sloppy mistakes in the free skate, unfortunately, kept him out of the top 6. But he has strong potential and had a decent season on an international Grand Prix, especially at NHK.
Yes. Yeah, he's another one that I'm excited to watch. I think that he's very much, a full package skater because I believe he has landed a quad before and he also really has the artistry.
And I love his costumes. They're amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Erin, I am shocked we reached the hour mark. And here I was, I wrote down all these notes in case, we needed to fill some time, but we did not at
Yeah.
all because it was such an exciting event. Thank you again for filming this with me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I always love doing this. I could talk about skating all day, so it's perfect.
All right. We'll have you again on soon. And thank you, viewers, for watching. I'll catch you in my next video. Thank you. Goodbye.